Hi, I'm Bob, and I recently had Dr. Gross in the Primera Surgical Center here doing a lower facelift on my face, and was done back in early December, and it's now late February, and the results are extraordinary. About a year ago, a friend of mine came to me and said, "You know, Bob, if you consider doing something to just lift up the sagging skin underneath your chin, you could look amazingly much younger." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't know where to do that." And he said, "Well, you know what? The very best plastic surgeon for faces is actually here in Orlando, this Dr. Gross." So I made an appointment about a year ago to come and see Dr. Gross for an initial consult, and he took some photos, and he looked at my face, and he said I would be a good candidate. But it took me, honestly, about 9 months to get the courage up to go ahead and do something like this, because naturally this is not something that one just goes out and does on the spur of the moment. But I wish that 9 months ago I had made the decision to come then, because the overall procedure and the care that I've had here is just incredible. I really feel that this is the right decision that I've made, and I couldn't be happier.
When I first met Bob, what struck me most about him was he was very engaging and very active in his business life. So he wanted to have a natural look and also an improved look, to look younger. He was noticing some sagging of his jawline, sagging of his neck, and he really just wanted to be very realistically looking 5 to 10 years younger and be able to continue with his active business life. So we created a plan for Bob, which was called lower facelift with neck lift and neck liposuction, and we hid the incision underneath his chin and around the ear, so you really couldn't see anything at all.
Happy to. So the first time I actually came to meet Dr. Gross, naturally he was interested to understand what my expectations were for the procedure. And I think it was a little unusual for him, because I told him I was here interviewing him just as much as he was interested in me. And we did a lot of photographs of my face, and through his computer technology, he was actually able to show me what my reasonable expectations could be after the surgery. And Dr. Gross was very candid, very open. When he told me a little bit about his hobbies and what he does in his off time, I really felt that not only was I dealing with a very competent doctor, that was very obvious, but also a very caring individual. And so from the very first time I met Dr. Gross, I must say I felt very comfortable. He's a very confident individual, surgeon, and that exudes when you spend some time with him. The computer technology that he has, I can say to anybody that's considering any kind of a procedure that it's amazing, and you can really trust that the images that he's showing you, you're going to probably end up with a result that's very similar. So he really managed my expectations as far as what the final results would look like. And that also made it a little easier for me when I made my final decision to have the procedure done. For anyone that's considering this kind of a procedure, probably one of the major concerns we all have is how much pain, how much discomfort. And of course, I was very concerned about that also. And I can tell you that the day of the procedure, I was anxious. Anybody's going to be a little anxious. But when I came in, I really felt, again, I was in good hands. And all of the staff, Dr. Gross, all of his people. My nurse that day was Sarah. Everyone made me feel very comfortable. And of course, they give you whatever you need, depending on your level of anxiety, to be comfortable. When I woke up from after the procedure, I can tell you I felt so great. I kept saying, "So when are we starting? When do we start?" And it wasn't until I put my hands up to my head and I felt some bandages that I recognized that the procedure in fact had been completed. I went home that night, had a great sleep, had absolutely no discomfort at all, and the day of the surgery, and all of the everything that Dr. Gross said I would experience over the next couple days, he was very accurate. So he was able to describe for me ahead of time what level of discomfort I would have. And I can tell you that the level of discomfort I had was minimal. It was really minimal, and everything that he did and the medications that they gave me afterwards, I can tell you a lot of my apprehension that I had about the pain and the discomfort, I can tell anyone now, I can recommend to anyone that that's the least of the concerns if you have a procedure like this done.
So what struck me most about Bob when I first met him was how engaging he was and how active he was in his business life. He wanted to look 5 to 10 years younger, but he also wanted to look very natural. So we created a custom plan for him called lower facelift with neck lift and neck liposuction, where we hid the incisions underneath his chin and around his ears and behind his hairline. After the surgery, he was very, very happy. He looks 10 years younger. He's got a great jawline, a jawline most 30-year-olds would love to have, and he looks great, and he's really happy and still very active in his business life, and that's a great intrinsic reward for me as a surgeon.
Well, I'm a type A, and of course I was hoping that the surgery would take place on a Friday, which it did, and by Monday I would be healed and looking great as I feel today. And it does take a little time, and to be realistic, when you schedule something like this, Dr. Gross told me that I should expect not to go back into the office and to be that mobile for at least 1 week to 2 weeks. Well, in fact, by 3 or 4 days after the surgery, I was back in my office. I was not out in public, but I was in my home office, and I was able to work. I was very comfortable. My mind was clear. I was wearing a bandage after a couple days. 2 days I had a bandage on, and then the bandage is removed, and I was just wearing a bandage in the evenings when I'd go to sleep. And I would say within 7 to 10 days, I was actually comfortable enough to go out in public. The scars were so minimal, even though the surgery, again, was quite extensive and very invasive. And certainly within 3 weeks, I was actually back with some family members at the Christmas holidays who had no idea of the procedure that I had. And because of the minimal amount of scarring, I was able to keep it my secret.
Awesome. I think this next piece is just the big finish. You know, overall experience, and it maybe, I think stories connect with people the most. You know, like the story about your Christmas is good. Anything
right.
where you really felt this was a good idea, you know, where you have that feeling where you're like, I'm glad I did this.
Well, recently I've come in contact with some people that hadn't seen me in a couple months. And it's amazing when you walk into a room with someone who's maybe not seen you since I've had my procedure, and they immediately say, Bob, what's changed? You look a little different. You look great. You look like you've lost some weight. Well, and a couple people have actually commented, Bob, you look younger. What have you done that's different? That's a nice feeling, and that's obviously what one of my objectives were when I decided to have the procedure. So I can't say enough about how pleased I am that I made the right choice to come to Dr. Gross and have the procedure done. I can tell you that without any hesitation, the people here are incredible. Everything from his nursing staff, from Sarah to Michelle, who also works along with Dr. Gross to take care of the face after the procedure, to Debbie, who was doing a weekly massaging of my face to help with the swelling, etc. The whole team here is really committed to giving their patients a great experience. And I just can't tell you how happy I am that I made the choice that I did, and that I made the specific choice to come to Dr. Gross. It was very important that I make the right decision when somebody was going to work on my face. I travel around the world, the area of the world that although I live here in Orlando, on a monthly basis, when I commute to work, I commute to Western Europe and Eastern Europe and Russia on a monthly basis. And it was very important for me that I always look my best. And that was one of the reasons why I was motivated to have this procedure. But it was also one of my hesitations too. I could not take much downtime to be away from my job, and also my love for flying. when I'm not traveling around the world doing my business, my love is to fly an open cockpit seaplane, and I wanted to make sure that I would not be taken away from my favorite hobby of flying. And the great news was 6 to 7 weeks after I had my procedure, I was back in the cockpit again and flying my seaplane. So again, I just can't say enough great things about my experience here.